everyone. I have with me SJ, who has a very vibrant Twitter feed. But most importantly, I think he's a living example of someone who's transitioned from traditional finance to DeFi or the crypto world. And SJ is currently leading special projects at Terra. So super excited to have you here. And we're a part of this hackathon at Harmony, where the theme is bridging traditional finance to decentralized finance. So I think I'm super excited to just exchange notes, share some of your insights with all the developers who might be listening in today, and even get some ideas on what they could build, in the blockchain world. So before we get started, I'm Sahil, one of the co-founders at Harmony, and it's really a pleasure to host folks like yourselves as we kind of invite Web2 developers into the blockchain world. So I'm gonna have this is a fireside chat format, just a bunch of questions, but it's more conversational. SJ, feel free to add whatever flavor and color you'd like to in any of the topics that we go over today. And yeah, we can take it from there. But let's start with a little bit about yourself and what do you do at Terra, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure. Thanks, Sahil. Thanks for having me. Great to meet everybody virtually. My name is SJ. I am the director of special projects at Terraform Labs. And as Sahil mentioned, I have a decade or so of experience in traditional finance. So I guess I am a living example of somebody who has bridged over from traditional finance to decentralized finance. So I'm happy to speak about the experience. Just as a way of background, for those who may not be familiar, Terra is a layer one blockchain, and we are a suite of stablecoins that are algorithmically pegged. So we have more than a dozen stablecoins that are pegged to the respective fiat currencies. And we launched in 2018 and currently have a total value locked in our ecosystem closer to $10 billion through our staking token Luna, but also through some of our apps that we've built, whether it be Mirror, which is built on a primitive of investing, and Anchor, which is built on a primitive of savings. So I feel like we're just at a very exciting point of Terra specifically, and also DeFi in general. So happy to chat about all of those things, and also the collaboration that we have with Harmony.
Absolutely. We love that. Thanks so much for, again, introducing yourself. Before we deep dive into all the cool things about Terra, about DeFi, about, what Harmony and Terra are doing. Personally, you come from Wall Street. I want to know which out of all the Terra products, whether it's, of course, the foundation of the algorithmic stablecoin or the synthetics, mirror play with Mirror protocol, and the, fixed savings with Anchor, and a bunch of others that are coming along.
Yeah.
Which is your personal favorite product, or something which you're most excited about, and why?
Yeah, that's a difficult question, because that's like asking someone to choose their favorite child.
We don't want to make none of your team members feel bad if you don't choose their product.
Yeah, but I would say core to Terra and our suite of stablecoins becoming more widely adopted will be the success of Anchor, which is our savings protocol. I think there is a huge need for a high yield fixed rate savings protocol that is competitive and 10x, 100x better than what exists in traditional finance. And what Anchor enables is this high yield for anybody who has access to the internet, almost by kind of tapping into the innovations that have been developed in DeFi. So I think to the extent that anyone across the globe has an opportunity to access a savings product that is competitive to inflation, and given some of the limitations imposed by global monetary policies post-COVID, I think Anchor is a very, very high potential project in Terra, in the Terra ecosystem in our economy. There's definitely other projects that are in development that are super interesting too. So, Anchor, let's say, is a project that's incubated within by Terraform Labs. I think the way to think about Terra is everything that we've built so far is a proof of concept and kind of rebuilding the financial stack. And what we're excited about is the future, which is what our community of builders and quote unquote lunatics are working on. So another primitive and another app that we built really at first is Chai, which is a e-wallet and payments gateway in Korea. And we spent a lot of time getting the appropriate licenses and ensuring that we can build the best product, which essentially abstracts away a lot of the blockchain layer from consumers, but also enables merchants to the benefits of blockchain, whether it be faster settlement times, lower fees, and passes through some of those benefits to consumers. So we've seen a lot of success with Chai. We have more than 2 million active users doing more than $5 billion in annual revenue. And what we're interested and excited about is our ecosystem of builders have seen the success of Chai and are building Chai equivalents in their own markets. So we have companies or projects like Alice and Kato who are building something similar in the US, Astral Money in the UK and EU. We have Tick and Capital building in Scandinavia and Australian markets. So there's just a whole host of projects that are now kind of growing organically by seeing what we've built as a proof of concept. So I think whether it be attacking savings through Anchor, and obviously one Anchor is something that we can talk about, whether it be attacking payments by being powered by our stablecoins, I think ultimately, to the extent that we can redesign this financial stack powered by our stablecoins, that's really our kind of reason for being, if you will, and how we measure success.
Fantastic. And I think I personally love the model how Terra and Terraform Labs has incubated these primitives and which have achieved much more than critical mass of adoption. And now you're actually inviting new developers to build, either likes or on top of these primitives, like the cool stuff with Orion protocol and how so many different stable coins can plug into the Anchor ecosystem. So I think in a few minutes, we'll talk a little bit about how do you see scaling Anchor, on-ramps and off-ramps and enabling other developers. So that's an exciting topic. Why I brought it up is personally that Anchor is also one of my favorite of Terra's products. But I want to just take a step back and uncover some of your own thinking process first on there's a bunch of Web2 developers or just, people from traditional finance listening in.
Sure.
And let's walk through a little bit about your thinking process when you wanted to make the shift from, you spent 9 years or give or take at Goldman and you decided, hey, I'm going to go into crypto. I'm going to bet on Terra. Tell us about your thinking process, how that happened. What was that tipping moment for you so that, our folks can get to know?
Sure. So I think it was a combination of a few different factors. So, I had been familiar with blockchain technologies, with Bitcoin, what was happening in Ethereum, with what was happening in DeFi, but never really kind of thought about making the leap of faith because I felt like the markets were still very early and it felt very risky. And I think it was a combination of one, post-COVID and kind of seeing fixed income markets reset to the zero lower bound. And I think the traditional finance folks will appreciate this. There was very little opportunity for investments in general, but also for household savings. Like it's difficult to compete to a 3 to 5% inflation rate in the US, for instance, when your savings rate is at 10 basis points or 20 basis points. And as a portfolio manager, I was buying, let's say, 3-year Apple bonds at 27 basis points. Mm-hmm. And you see some of these DeFi protocols that are offering 10x that, 20x that in terms of a potential for earning. And obviously there's risks associated with that, but I think just the market dynamics and trends helped me appreciate DeFi much more. The other was just the adoption of blockchain technology and the openness that larger institutions were having around kind of decentralized finance. So, even within GS or at JP Morgan, late last year, for instance, JP Morgan announced like the JPM coin, or at Goldman, like we have instituted teams to look into how we can incorporate blockchain technologies to settlements and other the parts of our business. And yeah, I think just seeing the embracing of some of this technology by larger institutions made me realize that the kind of narrative and the reception of these technologies has changed. So that was another one. And I think specific to Terra is an ecosystem that really builds with an outward lens. So everything that we've done is really built around trying to bring mass adoption to DeFi. And I was just really inspired by that. I just couldn't find many other projects that are doing the same thing. And, some of my initial conversations with Do, the founder, is, he doesn't necessarily think that we're doing anything super innovative. Obviously, we're building like amazing, like cool products, but, we kind of see this as a natural progression of history. To the extent that there was like the gold standard for US dollars, and now we have the introduction of central banks in the current history. I think over time, there will be widespread adoption of digital currencies. So I think to the extent that we can be at the forefront of that, and the opportunity to kind of join that journey was very exciting for me.
That's very cool. That's definitely very inspiring, and how very clearly at a fundamental level you think about the world and the transition, where traditional finance is today, and we have an opportunity to 10, if not 100x that in the next 10 to 15 years. And it's great to be at the kind of ground floor doing that, or being a part of it. Truly exciting for sure. Now, one thing that I think we can start touching on is, of course, Terra has built the foundational infrastructure, right? With the algorithmic stablecoin and the whole idea that, within the country, you could have different stablecoins, right? Then build all these application layers on top. But we're also within the crypto space, we see the multi-chain or a cross-chain world a reality, right? And Terra's been at the forefront of embracing that, even with Harmony, with some of the other chains. So talk us through how you guys think about the cross-chain story for Terra, all these partnerships, all these different assets on different blockchains being plugged in to Terra's products, and Terra stablecoin traveling to other blockchains as a whether as a medium of exchange or payment. So talk us through that.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think as I alluded to earlier at Terra, like our main business are stable coins. So obviously we built our own layer one blockchain because we needed the solid foundation of sovereign monetary policy, if you will, to be able to build this financial stack. But I think we're really at this pivotal moment where Terra becomes more than just the blockchain itself, but to your point, has connectivity cross-chain and has interoperability built into it. So, the vision that at least personally I have for Terra is that UST becomes, one of the most widely used stablecoin in DeFi, and serves as the backbone of DeFi. And obviously, that assumes that there is, whether it be with Harmony or other similar projects, connectivity to not just people who are kind of insularly native and excited about Terra and in our blockchain, but maybe on Ethereum, maybe on Binance Smart Chain, maybe on Solana. So that's definitely a focus that we have. I think like the shuttle bridge that we have, for instance, is a good testament to that, by being built on Cosmos SDK, and Tendermint Consensus is another example of it for IBC. There's also Wormhole that allows for ETH and Solana bridges. So I think a lot of those are kind of testament to our effort to, again, try to bring in mass adoption by being able to be everywhere and have this cross-chain strategy, really. And I think specific to Harmony, like the fast kind of finality that it provides for Ethereum is like super exciting for us. So I just think this is core to our belief that the future of DeFi is going to be cross-chain.
Absolutely. And I can't agree more. I think you guys are doing a lot to think about all the potential infrastructure needs to make the cross-chain world a reality, right? I think we recently saw the announcement of Wormhole. And now also you guys are thinking hard about how do you do these, ETH Anchor, One Anchor, Soul Anchor API, so that all this, community demand for Terra stable coins and even products, fixed savings products are no-brainers. We get so much from our community. Hey, how can I, participate with Anchor, being a, Harmony community member. And I think we're building these tunnels and pipes to make that happen together. I think that's a pretty cool part, which we also are inviting developers to play around with during this hackathon. So I think one thing everyone can look forward to is, hey, how do we, use UST on Harmony, or how do we think about plugging in, all the stable coins or assets to some of these protocols on Terra. So pretty cool. Now, one thing which is also very important as we've seen in the last 12 months is, along with this innovation comes decision making, and decision making is become decentralized in a way, right? With all these community votes, even some very critical decisions that have to be made in tough times have to happen through community voting. And Terras again been at the forefront of driving that. Talk us through how you guys manage, this whole idea of centralized shipping things fast versus what's Do's role in that. I know he's very vocal on Twitter, so it's very exciting to see. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Yes, it's a great point. I think over the past year, we've definitely pivoted into a DAO-like model. And, long story short, I think the future. So it's kind of, anxious for me to say that, even like coming out of my mouth. But if you look at what MakerDAO has done or Shapeshift has done, I think those are good examples of how organizations can dissolve once its mission is accomplished. And for us, really is, like this kind of organic and community-driven effort to really build DeFi and a new financial stack. So I think to the extent that from, let's say, 2018 to 2020, at the genesis of Terra and the Terra economy, there needed to be some centralized focus to be able to push initiatives and to be very aggressive in building. We're at a point where we're very open to and eager to kind of release some of those controls to the community. So I think you're alluding to a lot of the governance votes that have been happening over the past few months, whether it be with regards to how to spend our community fund, or with regards to Columbus 5, which is like a mainnet upgrade for us and a new monetary policy, if you will, similar to EIP 1559. So like some of these decisions are all driven by governance, and that the same thing applies for the initial protocols that we designed, whether it be Mirror or Anchor, really being driven by this DAO-like model too. So, I would say that our aim is to really dissolve, and maybe I'll come asking you for a job in 3 to 5 years if we are successful, and if Terraform Labs doesn't exist. But I really feel like it is a valiant effort, and something that I'm very, excited to be part of.
Absolutely. And I think that's the beauty. You guys are definitely enabling that community. There was I think Space Camp, which was
Space Camp,
a very unique hackathon model as well. So we definitely see a lot of exciting initiatives, and it's not an easy job. It doesn't happen overnight. I think you have to keep on chugging along, empowering your community and developers to do that. So for sure, hackathons are great places for finding people who are excited about building, and then they naturally align incentives and get plugged into the ecosystem. So that's cool. So where do how do you see the leadership's role of Terraform Labs playing in as you slowly transition? Obviously, there's so much context that your team, how you think about Anchor and Do has. How do you kind of openly, in a vulnerable fashion, share that with the community? Tell us a little bit more about that. What kind of balance do you need to keep?
Yeah, I think, and I would say for anybody unfamiliar with our community, just check out our Twitter, or check out some of our Telegram chats. But it's super vibrant, and really, like, we don't have that much like coerced activity there. Like, it's really all grassroots and organic. So one good example of this, I feel like, is, so we have a Terra Finder, which just looks up transactions and wallets, for instance, that are on the Terra chain. And a community member created Extraterrestrial Finder, which is like 10 times better than our existing one. And we basically decided, there's no need for us to have a centralized Terra Finder. We should just use this option, right? So I think that's a good example of just community movement furthering our progress. And I can think of many other examples like that, whereby projects are just taking Anchor and Mirror and other projects to the next level. I think one thing that is important that I should touch on is just in the nature of decentralized finance, and our push for decentralization is really, I think, the core value proposition for our stablecoins as well. So obviously, a lot of the leaders in stablecoins are what I would kind of describe as centralized stablecoins because of their dependence on whether it be a bank where they deposit funds or exchanges to the extent that they were to purchase short-term commercial paper. We don't really have that because we're algorithmically pegged. And at the core of it, we feel like DeFi or decentralized finance has to be built on a very robust decentralized money. So I think, the way that people should understand us is this kind of unique value proposition of being truly decentralized. Like most recently, Coinbase listing UST and other developments are huge testaments to our approach being unique and serving this value proposition. So hopefully people who are getting familiar with our ecosystem understands that too.
Absolutely. And I think one thing I do observe, and my personal opinion is that even though there's still so many experiments going on with, these algorithmic stablecoin models, but UST is, almost reached that product market fit with the amount of activity. And of course, I think UST's value is only strengthened as the utility of UST is strengthened across all these applications that you're going for. So let's talk a little bit about Anchor protocol, right? Sure. Anchor, fixed savings, everyone loves fixed savings, right? Mm-hmm. It's just not enough, right? You look at in the US, a checking account, there's nothing there, a few basis points, right? So how do you bring it to mainstream? When we think about that, let's go a little bit deeper, not at a
sure.
high strategic level, but some of the smaller execution challenges which need to be solved with that developers should know about, right? Whether it's on-ramps and off-ramps, whether it's more fintech-like front ends or fintech partnerships with fintech. And you guys have done with the Earn APIs as well. So let's talk a little bit about your efforts there and what are still the big challenges that you need to resolve to take Anchor and fixed savings mainstream. And then after that, we'll also talk about a little of the risks and challenges, right? With where does it come from, borrowing environment, staking derivatives. So we'll touch that later, but let's talk about the opportunity at hand.
Yeah, so I think the opportunity is great, obviously, and I think a lot of our community members will share that view. For the vision for Anchor is really to become like the Stripe for savings. And I think to the extent that Anchor SDK can be easily plugged into various offerings, whether it be by neobanks or fintech companies, it just will kind of create a Cambrian explosion of others adopting it just because of the competitiveness of the economics that it provides. So, for that to happen, to what you alluded to, there does need to be some core ingredients, whether it be an easy fiat on-off ramp or KYC, AML compliance. And, as a company, we are working on that front with some of the larger counterparties who lead that front. And also, as I alluded to before, whether it be, Alice or Kato, some of these ecosystem projects are working on specifically that problem too. So we're excited about these projects. We also have, for instance, like Yara Savings is an example of one that is already announcing Anchor integrations into their kind of neobank fintech solution. And we're hoping that, some of these adoptions will just create more momentum for others to adopt Anchor as well. I think the technology behind Anchor is, truly interesting because it's unlocking a very high fixed rate by using collateral that is cash flow generating. So it's kind of passing through a lot of those yields from the borrowers to the ones who are providing liquidity. And I think to the extent that the future for DeFi is bright and there is a steep growth curve, there will be a lot of room for continued scale for Anchor as a product.
Absolutely. And one question is when you know that there are certain missing pieces that are exciting opportunities for either Terraform labs or developers to work on, how do you specifically look for like all these applications that you mentioned, Alice, Yoda, are they automatically coming up with these, or there's some sort of signaling or direction that you guys give that, hey, we need this to be solved, and then you go and hunt for developers who are excited about it? That's something that we're about.
Yeah, again, I think it's pretty insane, but like one of the first projects that Bill gave me, for instance, was to work on this fiat on-off ramp. So when I joined, we said, okay, we have a project that we should work on, which is to create this fiat on-off ramp so that we can get Anchor everywhere. And then within a week or two, while we had our first kind of hackathon, a team by the name of Kado came around and said, hey, we actually have this vision for using UST everywhere. So, the way that they were thinking about it is they'll start with, a simple way in which you can convert UST to gift cards, but by way of introducing the KYC AML layer to that, and by way of introducing a fiat on-off layer to that, essentially kind of be a SaaS-like solution for other projects to have connectivity to these solutions by linking with Kado. So, that's just one example of how we think about these core problems to solve, and the community just takes care of them for us. And obviously, we're very excited to support them in that journey. But it is one of the core benefits of working in such a burgeoning community. And there's definitely other ways in which we provide support, and to the extent that we need to work with, whether it be Prime Trust or other service providers, to make sure that there is a deep enough liquidity pool, or ways in which we can provide support to these projects. We're definitely involved. But I'm very proud of the fact that it's just organically driven and they make our job much easier.
Fantastic. No, I think that is a beautiful model. At least you make it known that this is where we're going, and then you suddenly see developers like, hey, I'm going to raise my hand up.
Totally.
So let's go on your thesis on how do we bridge fintech with DeFi. I think we've been hearing this analogy a lot that, hey, we'll go mainstream when fintech acts as the front end and DeFi is the back end. It's pretty much like what you talked about with Anchor, SDK. That's kind of fitting nicely in that position. So you talked about some neobanks plugging in the savings product from Anchor.
Right.
So some ideas on how this can scale, right, for the crypto space. Anything that you've learned in the last few months trying to do this that you'd love to share?
Yeah, I think one thing that I've learned is that it's not going to happen overnight. So I think to the extent that there's definitely a lot of excitement and potential for DeFi to kind of reshape what we know as finance, there will be hurdles. And I think there are ways in which we can try to optimize for that. But I think Chai is a good example. So Chai, again, being this e-wallet in Korea, we've been able to work with all of the regulatory bodies and obtain the appropriate licenses to run this application as a legitimate business, but also powering it with DeFi. And once you kind of are able to build out all of those components, it's very easy, quick to scale. So I think, one question that people ask is, for any startup, how do you find product market fit? And for us, I think just the competitiveness of what DeFi offers will allow for a lot of that product market fit to find itself. But really, a lot of the difficulties will reside in making sure that those base components are there for people to build on. So to your point about fiat on-off ramps or kind of compliance, I think those are certainly things that should be there for builders to build. I think also clarity from a regulatory perspective will be helpful as well. I think that's coming, obviously, as we see from the headlines. But I think some of those kind of fears by larger institutions of engaging in more direct activity will be assuaged by clarity coming from regulators and by more compliance. So I think there's definitely kind of a spectrum of, DeFi being decentralized finance and some CeFi offerings, and there being value across that spectrum. And I think, again, for us, to the extent that we can provide a base layer of currencies on that spectrum, it's something that we're very excited about.
Fantastic. And do you guys have also a plan for engaging with institution and institution money, or is it more like, hey, all our products are very consumer or retail facing?
Yeah, this is like alpha drop, but we are, yeah, we're already in conversations with larger institutions too. That I think many traditional finance folks will recognize, and yeah, I just think there's a lot of demand for at least learning about what's out there, and I think it may it comes from various angles. It may just come organically from certain high net worth individuals being curious if their wealth manager is providing some services to tap into investment opportunities in DeFi. It may come from like portfolio managers who realize they're sitting on like 20% cash in their portfolios that are doing nothing, and maybe they make a structural allocation to DeFi. Again, like I think some of the larger financial institutions adopting this technology is the first step to seeing more kind of direct involvement investment into the space. So that's definitely coming and in the works.
For sure. And we all definitely rely on you making a few phone calls to your buddies at Goldman to get them in.
I just feel like we're super early and we will get to that state eventually, just like how 5-10 years ago I think people wouldn't have imagined Bitcoin ending up in ETFs and in like core allocations to like endowments, right? It's just, in my mind, it's just going to happen, and I think for all of us it's just an exciting journey to get there.
Absolutely. And I think we're rooting for you guys at Harmony, and that brings us to Harmony and Terra are a great example of cross-chain partnerships. We believe in the algorithmic stablecoin story and infrastructure that you guys have already built. And I think where we're at is with the bridge already supporting, bringing USD and Luna over to the Harmony ecosystem. And I think up next, we're definitely excited about extending some of the products that we touched on. But anything that you'd like to share with the developers? There's also a very Terra specific track during our hackathon. So go ahead and share whatever your thoughts are about our collaboration.
Yeah. I think just to start off, hackathons in general are great, and the way that you guys have designed the Harmony hackathon is great too. Just because hackathons are like the front lines of innovative ideas by like the most passionate builders. So I think being able to see some of the ideas and excitement from our communities has been great. For ideas and, at least from experience, the first hackathon that TFL launched, I think 70 to 80% of our ideas were built on top of using Anchor Earn. So I think we may see something similar for our Harmony and Terra track as well, whereby it utilizes a lot of that high fixed savings rate to power very interesting ideas, whether it be like no loss lotteries or perpetual donations to charities, which are some ideas that have come out from our initial hackathon. And I think building on Harmony itself is super interesting because everybody wants to connect to Ethereum, but the limitations of speed and high fees are what keep, I feel like, more broad-based connectivity and put constraints on that. So I think as Harmony solves for that, it's super interesting to be able to build on a much faster version, if you will, and have connectivity into that deep liquidity and TVL of Ethereum.
Absolutely. Can't agree more. And I think we'll hopefully see some exciting new projects coming out. Something like I'm going to drop a few ideas here. Orient, protocol or application on top of Harmony. Hopefully we'll have the one Anchor APIs also.
Absolutely.
The beauty is, SJ, that even the bridge integration for the bridge was done by a developer, from our community. It wasn't done by either of the teams, and it's live now. And I think that's the power of open source, right? And that's the power of bounties and hackathons. And that's what we want to keep on encouraging. That's how we're going to see a completely, truly open development, environment with our protocols. So excited about that. Hey, I know. Sure. I think I appreciate you taking out time, and you've shared a lot of good insights for all the developers listening in. And I hope they all, like at least folks in the Web2 or the Wall Street world listening in, can learn from your story of making the leap, and also reach out to you on Twitter. Perhaps that's an exciting place to find you. But appreciate you taking our time, and I think we're looking forward to you judging some of the projects that are submitted during the hackathon as well.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you again for having me. And I'm sure this is just going to be the beginning of a longer term collaboration for us, and, a history of traditional finance going into DeFi. So excited for it.
Absolutely. Thanks, SJ, for your time. And guys, see you for some other panels after this one.
Awesome. Thanks, Sayu.